Hi, my name is John and welcome to another edition of Statistics Tell a Story. We are going into week 3 of the NFL season, and again I'm going to give you my 5 picks against the spot. Thus far I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually 8-2. That percentage will not hold up, but so let's just hope I have more successes than failures, but it's been pretty good so far. I just wanted to point out something I talked about the very first week. I talked about models, and a lot of us have different models. And usually what people do is a model will reflect a power rating of each team, and those power ratings are a combination of what you project the team going into the season as well as what's transpired during the season. So for example, you have a team that, and I'm going to mention Cleveland. That'll be the first team that I actually have as a selection, which I'll get to in a second. But Cleveland was 7-10 last year. Their metrics actually reflected a better team than that. And actually this year they're 1-1, but they've actually been a very good team. So models will, again, you might say, well, how do you get those metrics? So everyone has a kind of a secret sauce, you might say, for how you develop a power rating. It might be certain metrics from last year, certain changes in personnel, maybe coaching changes, and then as well as incorporating what's transpired this year. Actually, so Cleveland is actually my first pick. They are -3.5 against Tennessee. In the first 2 games of the year, Cleveland has played Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, and neither of those teams has made a trip into the red zone. So Cleveland's defense is very good, probably a little bit under the radar. Their offense is actually pretty good. Their offensive line is good. They have some decent skill position players. Nick Chubb, of course, was injured and is out for the year. Running backs sometimes don't mean as much, even star running backs don't mean as much as, say, a star receiver. Their biggest question mark might be their big signing, which was Deshaun Watson. They're still I think they're one of the 5 or 6 best teams in football. They haven't really shown it yet, but they're also going up against a very good, very well coached team in Tennessee. I'm not sure that Tennessee quite has the talent. My model actually has this closer to 7 points, and so I like Cleveland giving 3.5 points. Second pick is Carolina. Carolina is getting 5.5 points. They are playing Seattle. Again, this is a model pick. I have this actually closer to 2 points. It is in Carolina, and again, so this, I can't get into all the specifics necessarily, but I think 5.5 points is somewhat generous with Carolina. That's my second pick. Again, I've mentioned this before. These are in no order. I think I just happen to have these in random order. Third is Denver. Denver is getting 6.5 points against Miami. Miami has looked really good. Denver, not so good. Denver was projected to have a pretty good defense coming into the league. Their offense has actually played decent. Russell Wilson there are mixed kind of beliefs on Russell Wilson at this point in his career. He had a bad year last year. A lot of people thought that was maybe due to coaching. They picked up Sean Payton now as a coach this year. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Pro Football Focus grades players. And Russell Wilson, I believe, is graded 4th. Now, that's subjective. Some people maybe look at him and they say, well, you know what, he still doesn't look real good. It's kind of debatable, but according to them, he grades actually as the 4th best passer in football through 2 games. But they play Miami. Again, as I mentioned, Miami's look very good. I believe Sean Payton and company will bounce back after 2 losses. I think he's too good of a coach. So this is more of a situational pick than a model pick, but I like Denver plus 6.5 points. Tampa Bay is playing Philly. They are getting 5.5 points. I think Tampa excuse me, I think Philly might not be quite the team they were last year. They lost both their offensive and defensive coordinator from last year. That means, I think, a little more than people realize. I'm not sure Jalen Hurts is playing up to the way he was last year. They have some injuries in their secondary. Tampa, on the other hand, they're 2-0. Baker Mayfield's playing very well. I think this game actually might be a little bit closer than the point spread, and so I like 6.5 points. And then finally, Washington against Buffalo. They are getting 6.5 points. And somewhat similar, you might say, to any of these games. So you've got Tampa's 2-0, Denver's 0-2, but you've got kind of three teams that are getting points against powerhouses, right? I didn't write the opponent here, but Denver's playing Miami, Tampa's playing Philly, Washington's playing Buffalo, three of the best teams in the league. These teams might all be what I would call slightly under the radar team. Washington's 2-0. They still might be a little bit under the radar only because they beat two questionable teams. They had to come back against Denver last year. But I think they might be a better team than might be shown, at least on paper. Sam Howell, there's question marks on him as a quarterback, but I think he might be a little better than people think. Again, by Pro Football Focus, he grades a little better than maybe some of the other younger quarterbacks. I like Washington plus 6.5 points against Buffalo. And so those are my 5 picks. And don't forget to hit like or subscribe, please. I want to boost those subscriptions. And hopefully we'll have another winning week. And I will see you next week on Statistics Tell a Story.